So this is our last video before we go into the coaching section of the course. And this is where I just want to wrap everything up and bring everything together. So we're going to go back to the phone analogy one more time. Just like we have new editions of phones and the hardware and the software is constantly changing, we need to think the same way about ourselves. So there are many times in our lives where things fluctuate. Our life does not remain stable. We might go through renovations. We might move. We might experience a divorce. We might experience illness, a loved one's illness. There are so many different things that we experience in our lives, and therefore the triggers end up multiplying. And then when they're over, they come down. The first thing is, despite how long some things might seem to last, nothing lasts forever. And so we really want to understand how we can adapt and change our self-regulatory processes as our life changes. So when life throws us lemons, and yes, sometimes life can really throw us tons of lemons, and life can really be horrendous. And we need to start looking and having more self-compassion for ourselves when that happens, and how we approach our self-regulation practice when life is really low and when it's higher changes. The other point that I want to make is that we're changing and our interests change. As we grow, we develop, and we experience different things in our lives, our interests and our tastes change. So the same thing with our self-regulation practice. We need to expect that it's not always going to be the exact same thing. We can't expect that what we like to do when we're younger are the things that we're going to like to do when we're older. When I was younger, I loved kickboxing. Now, I don't really want to do kickboxing. I choose other ways to exercise and work my muscles. And so we need to recognize that, and that's okay. And even today, 4.5 years later, I continually learn. I continually learn about new practices, new self-regulation practices. And so I'm constantly adjusting and playing with the different methods and techniques that I use, and the different times that I use them, and how I space them through the week. I'm playing, I'm adjusting as I go deeper and deeper and deeper in my self-regulation practice. So I don't want it to be, or the expectation to be, well, I'm trying to achieve a certain level of self-regulation, and once I get that, I'm going to just maintain everything. Well, the minute life changes, your self-regulation practice will likely be forced to change, because you won't either be able to maintain the same level or do the same things, or you might not even derive the same benefits when you have these additional triggers. And so it's really important to keep all of that in mind, and to expect, one, the unexpected, and two, to expect to constantly change as you go deeper, as your interests change, as life changes. Everything is going to change, and it's not going to remain static. It's not set in stone. And so it's very helpful to keep that in mind when we're approaching this. And that's why for me, it's a daily practice, because where most things stay constant throughout my week, throughout my month, I am still modifying things almost on a daily basis, depending on what goes on in my day, what I have available in my tank, my energy, how I slept. All of these things change, and I'm prepared to change my practice every single day. So for me, when we hear about self-care in the world and how we really need to pay more attention to self-care and our boundaries, I've only been able to do that when I started this self-regulation practice. So for me, self-care is all about learning how to self-regulate and learning how to take care of our brains and our nervous systems. Finally, no one expects there to be perfect self-regulation. I certainly have not achieved perfect self-regulation. I don't have the expectation that I will be perfect, that I will never yell, and that I'm going to be the equivalent of a robot. I am constantly looking for progress. I am constantly looking to practice and to work at this and to develop my self-compassion alongside all of that, because I find for myself, when I am more forgiving with my lapses, I tend to make less of them. So all of that is food for thought. I also want to address what I see is going on in society. And so I see that in society right now, we're rewarding people who are sleep deprived, who are pushing through, who demonstrate high levels of personal sacrifice, who are suppressing their emotions, who are leading lives where they are completely overloaded, and who are trying to pump out maximum productivity amidst all of these things. And I have essentially thrown this out. This is not the way I want to live. This is not even the expectations I have for myself anymore. And instead, I'm leaning into a life where I'm focused on maintaining my energy levels, learning and continuing to enjoy the times where I'm spending being calm, developing my capacity for resilience through my nervous system. And really, when I talk about that, I am intentionally doing hard things and working through the process of doing hard things so that I can finish that loop and learn to really move through it and build the resiliency muscle that I was talking about earlier. I'm looking for increased emotion regulation, not perfection again, just increased emotion regulation. I'm looking for a life with meaning and enhanced executive functioning. And so you might say to me, well, Joy, I only live once and I want to live, and I see nothing wrong with the way I'm living, and I just want to continue doing everything that I've been doing because it's working well for me. And so if that's the case, go for it. I don't want to stop you. I'm just presenting information. I'm here sharing what I've learned. And if it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, great. And I wish you the most success and well-being going forward. And if you feel that your energy is not where you'd like it to be, if you feel like you have many of those signs and it's really impacting your quality of life, if you feel that your enjoyment of life is more in line with meh, or just it just is, then perhaps you want to consider how adopting a self-regulation practice might improve those things. So it's really up to you. And with that, I want to leave you, before we go into the coaching side, I want to leave you with two quotes that really have had a deep impact and that I really feel very personally connected to. And I'm going to read them because they're long. So the first is Jim Quick, by Jim Quick. And he says that if an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. And if the egg is broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things always begin from the inside. And then another quote by a Zen Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, and he says that peace in the world starts with peace in one's self. And so, once again, these quotes really, really profoundly touched me. And I feel the desire to share them with you in the hopes that they resonate with you. So, we've now finished the teaching part of the course. And I invite you to join me in the coaching part of the course, which comes next. Now, for the coaching part of the course, there is another workbook. So again, in all of the description boxes for all of these videos, there's always the link where you can go and access the workbook. So go to that link and you will find the workbook for the coaching part of this course. And I hope you'll join me. I hope that you're curious enough to start developing a self-regulation practice of your own. So with that, I leave you and I look forward to seeing you in the coaching section of the course.